last time we created this file here, top 80 modular paramotor frame. Let's left click on that and open it up. We're going to go through and create some parts. You'll get a lot of repetition with the same tools. That'll be good because if you're new to Onshape or new to 3D CAD, it'll give you a lot of practice with using the tools and how they function. If I go too fast, just pause the video and then you can get caught up and then restart the video. So I'm going to go over to the navigation cube, far upper right hand corner. Left click on top view. Come over, left click on sketch. Left click on the top plane right here. You notice it highlighted just under sketch 1. It's listed here, so we've got it selected. We're going to left click on the center point circle tool. We're going to go to the center of that top plane. Left click, drag that out, and then left click again. Now, if I try to left click without turning this off, there's a couple different ways to turn this tool off. I could just left click on it, or I can hit escape. Because if I select any point inside that plane, it's going to create another circle if I don't deactivate the center point circle. Now that we've got that created, we're going to go up to the dimension tool, left click on that, left click on the outer part of that circle, drag it away, and we're going to set this at 0.73. Now this is going to be a 3/4 inch tube that we're going to use, but I'm setting it a little bit smaller because what's going to happen is we're going to 3D print this. And that's another reason we're not creating this as a tube. Like I'm not creating a second circle within that circle and making it look like a tube. It'll be too fragile for assembly. So we're just going to make the outer diameter, not the inner diameter, not the wall thickness for this tube. I'm not concerned about shrinkage on this tube, but when we make these modular connections, they're going to shrink and it'd be hard to fit this tube in if we keep the actual diameter of the real part. So I'm going to hit enter. You notice that is now 0.73. In real world, it would be 0.75. So now we've got to close this sketch out before we do anything else. So I'm going to left click on that plus sign. I'm going to go over to the navigation cube. I'm going to left click on the front plane. I'm going to go over and create a new sketch. Left click, come over to front plane, left click on that. Go over, select the line tool, left click, go to the center of the front plane, left click on the center of the front plane, drag that up a little bit, left click again. Now notice how it's trying to create another line. If I left click, it's going to form that line. I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to hit escape, and not only did the line go away, but it deactivated that line tool up. I'm going to go over to the dimension tool again. I'm going to left click on the line, drag that out, and we're going to go 36 inches. So I'm going to left click on the numbers, 36 inches. If yours is set to a different dimension, like millimeters, centimeters, some other measurement, I'm going to show you how to change that. I'm going to left click on sketch 2. Now go up to these 3 lines right next to Onshape, and then go to workspace, units. Left click on that and set to inches. That's what we're going to do for our default length. That's what our real world assembly is going to be. We're going to use one of our tools to form the tube, the outer portion of the tube. Go over to the sweep tool. So it's the third one in the list. Left click on that. Notice it's set at solid new. I'm going to go down and I'm going to left click on that circle. Now it's asking, what's the path? So what do we want to sweep? What's it going to follow? Left click on that red line. Left click on this line we created, and now it has formed our tube. Make sure it's solid, new, faces of sketch 1 and edge of sketch 2 for the path. I'm going to left click on this green check mark and I'm going to scroll out. I'm going to go back to front view real quick. I'm going to go down here to part 1 and I'm going to right click on that and we're going to rename it. So this is going to be our front frame tube. I'm going to hit enter. We're not done with it yet. Down on the wheel and hold, you can move that part around. We're in right view. I'm going to left click on sketch, left click right view. I'm going to scroll in. You notice we've got right plane selected. I'm going to create a center point circle here. I'm going to left click here. Now you see that dashed line. I'm going to scroll in so you can see it. It's yellow. That yellow dashed line and then that vertical line that appears in that square. That's telling us that we're centered up in that tube. So we're in the center portion relative to the right plane. And I'm going to left click on that. So we're going to create a 10 millimeter size hole here. So we need that in inches. So 0.394 is what we're looking for. We're going to go to the dimension tool and we want that circle we just created, because this is going to be the hole for the swing arms. We want it 3 inches from the top because we're going to have a connection here at the top and we need it to be in between those two connections. So I'm going to left click on that distance I currently have. I'm going to do 3 inches. Double click on that and that should be set at 0.394. Hit enter. And it changes the size of that because we're going to use an M10 bolt. So a 10 millimeter bolt is going to go in that to hold the swing arm on. So now let's close that out by left clicking the check mark. Now you can, if you need to label these, what these sketches go to. So you could do sketch 1 front frame tube, sketch 2 front frame tube. The problem is it'll change. The next sketch will be a sketch 1 if you change this. I personally just like to keep these in order because you can come back down and highlight the part and any sketches near it will be relative to the part you create. We're going to use another tool. So let's go over. We're in isometric view. We need to extrude that out because we're going to create a hole for that. And left click on the extrude tool. Now it's asking us, what are we going to extrude? We just created that hole or that circle. Left click on sketch 3 and we want it to remove. So let me scroll in on this so you can kind of see what's going on. And notice it created a hole here, but it didn't do that on the other side because it's not symmetric. We're going to go symmetric. It's set at 1 inch, so we know it's going to go out far enough now on each side to create that hole. And it's removed that area. Now let's left click on that, and now we have that hole centered up. So now part 1 is created. We're going to go back in and create some additional parts. So that's all we needed for part 1. Everything we just did for part 1, we're going to do for part 2, so it'll give you repetition. Click on top view. We're going to create the motor mounts now. So let's go left click on sketch, left click on top view, left click center point circle, left click in the center of top view, drag that out, left click again and then hit escape to deactivate the center point circle tool, left click on the dimension tool, left click, drag that out, 0.73 because we're going slightly smaller than the actual part. So when we 3D print it, we won't have any problem sliding these past each other. So that's on top view. Let's close sketch 4 out. Let's go over left click on front view, left click on sketch, left click on front view. You notice it says front plane here. Left click on the line tool, go to the center of the front plane, left click on that highlighted region, pull that away, left click again, pull the line away, hit escape so we don't create a second line, left click on the dimension tool, left click on that line again, 14 inches. So hit enter. Now we're at 14 inches. Left click on sketch 5 on that check mark. Now we're going to create this as a tube just like we did. So I went over to isometric view, I clicked on the corner, left click. Let's go over to the sweep tool again. left click on that. It opens up solid new because we're creating a new part. Left click on the circle so that it highlights. Go up here where it says sweep path, left click until it turns blue. Left click on the line and it created our tube for us. Make sure these are still solid and new. Faces of sketch 4 should be in this region. Edge of sketch 5 should be here. Left click on the check mark. Alright, so we are in front view. Let's go to sketch. Let's go select, left click on front view. You see it selected here under sketch 6. We're going to create 2 center point circles. We're going to create one. Notice that dashed line telling us we're in the center. We're also getting that vertical line. We're going to drag that out. And we'll get these set. Alright, so let's go up, left click on dimension tool, go to the center of that circle. Let me scroll in so you can see. So not the outer part, the center. Left click on that, left click on the edge, bring that away, and that should be 2.75. So we're going to go 2.75 inches from that edge. We're going to do the same thing for this one. Select the center, select the edge with the dimension tool, pull that away, 2.75, 2.75. There we go. It should be 8.5 inches apart. This is not necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. Just to drag that out. That should be 8.5 inches apart. And then hit enter. Oh, actually, we've got one more thing to do. So we're still on the dimension tool. This needs to be, so I'm going to left click on that, 0.315. So 8 millimeters. We're doing it in inches since everything is set to inches. That's the size of bolt we're going to use. 0.315. Hit enter. There we go. So now those are the proper diameter. Now let's close this out. Let's extrude those. So left click on extrude. Go back to the circles we just created, which was sketch 6. I'm going to left click on that. So now those have been selected. Now you notice a cylinder popped out of that. We don't want a cylinder. We want to create a hole. So it's adding. We want to remove. So it should be solid, remove, symmetric, and since that depth is set to 1 inch for part 2, it should be coming out both sides. So it should have created a hole on either side. Left click on the check mark and we have extruded that. So now part 2 has been created. Let's go down here and rename it so we know what it is. Right click. And I would always rename your parts, even if you don't rename the sketches, just to keep everything organized. Motor mounts. All right, let's add something we didn't do for the last one, just so when we get to assembly view, everything is a different color. Let's right click on this. So all I did was right click on part 2. Let's go edit appearance. Let's make that a shade of green. And then left click. Let's close that out. So we've gotten some repetition. This next one should be fairly easy for you. We're going to create the support tubes to top view again. Let's go to sketch, left click on top view, left click center point circle, left click on the center, drag that out. Hit escape to deactivate the center point circle. Left click on the dimension tool. This one is going to be 0.73. Remember, we're going a little bit smaller scale than the actual real world part, mainly for the 3D prints so that everything fits together. All right, so we've created the circle. Left click on sketch 7. Scroll around to front view using the navigation tube. I'm going to pull that down by holding the wheel down. Left click on sketch, left click on front view, left click on the line tool, go to the center of the front plane. When it highlights, left click, drag that up, left click again, pull that away, hit escape to deactivate that line tool. Left click on the dimension tool, and this one's also going to be 14 inches. Same length as the motor mount. Left click on the check mark. Let's go over, we're going to sweep this. Left click on the sweep, solid new. We want to select the circle for face of sketch 7. Swept path, left click on that. Go in, left click on the line, and now you've created the support tube. Let's right click on part 3, hit rename, and call it our support tube. Right click, hit edit appearance, and let's go a light blue with that one. Let's see if these all look a little different.